Most people don't become poor overnight. They drift there slowly, and the Bible warns exactly how it happens. Here are 5 warnings that quietly keep people stuck in poverty. Warning number 1. Spending money to relieve stress. Proverbs warns that whoever loves pleasure will be a poor man. That phrase makes people uncomfortable because it sounds judgmental. But look at what it's actually describing. Someone who uses temporary pleasure as a solution to ongoing problems. Someone who spends money to feel better instead of addressing why they feel bad in the first place. This is different from enjoying life. There's nothing wrong with spending money on things that matter to you. The warning is about using purchases as emotional medication. Had a terrible day at work, buy something. Feeling anxious about money, go out to eat. Stressed about your relationship? New clothes might help. The pattern is so common that entire industries depend on it. Retail therapy, comfort food, stress shopping. We've given it cute names, but the Bible calls it what it is: a path to poverty. Because every time you spend money to fix a feeling, you create 2 problems. You still have the original stress, and now you have less money, which creates more stress, which leads to more spending. People caught in this cycle genuinely believe they're treating themselves or taking care of their mental health. And maybe in the moment, it feels like relief. But feelings are temporary. Bank accounts are real. If you're using your credit card as a therapist, you're going to end up with problems that no amount of shopping can fix. Warning number 2. Rushing your financial decisions. Proverbs says good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. That's not just wise advice. It's a warning about how your brain works under pressure. When you're desperate or emotional, you make terrible financial choices. Every single time. Think about the person who panic bought a house in 2007 because they were afraid prices would keep climbing forever. Or someone who took out a payday loan because they needed cash immediately and didn't calculate what 30% interest actually costs over 6 months. Hasty decisions feel urgent in the moment. They feel necessary. But they're usually just expensive mistakes dressed up as solutions. The pattern shows up everywhere. You see a sale that ends tonight, so you buy something you don't need with money you don't have. Your car breaks down, and instead of getting 3 quotes, you say yes to the first mechanic because you're stressed. Someone offers you an investment opportunity that sounds amazing, and you jump in without researching because you're afraid you'll miss out. Scripture calls this being hasty. Modern psychology calls it decision fatigue or emotional spending. Same problem, different name. The plans of the diligent lead surely to advantage, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty. That word surely means it's not a possibility. It's a guarantee. What makes this dangerous is that rushed decisions often feel right. They feel like you're taking action, being decisive, solving problems. But you're actually just trading long-term stability for short-term relief. And that trade never works in your favor. Warning number 3. Depending on one income source only. The Bible talks about dividing your portion into 7 or even 8 parts because you don't know what disaster may come. Most people hear that and think it's about investing in different stocks. But the principle goes deeper than your portfolio. It's about not putting all your financial security in one fragile basket. Right now, millions of people are one layoff away from disaster. One company decision, one industry shift, one bad quarter. Their entire financial life depends on a single employer continuing to pay them every 2 weeks. That's not security. That's vulnerability with a regular paycheck. This isn't about working 3 jobs or hustling every evening. It's about recognizing that depending entirely on one income stream means you have 0 margin for error. When that stream stops, everything stops. Your mortgage payment doesn't care that your company downsized. Your car payment doesn't pause while you find new work. The bills keep coming, but the income doesn't. You might be thinking this is just how jobs work. You get hired, you get paid. That's the system. But the Bible's warning here isn't about rejecting employment. It's about rejecting the illusion that any single source of income is truly secure. Even self-employed people fall into this trap when they depend entirely on one client or one type of service. The question isn't whether you should quit your job. The question is what happens to your family if that job disappears tomorrow. If the answer is financial catastrophe, You're ignoring a warning that's been in print for thousands of years. But there are two more warnings that might be even more costly. Warning number 4. Refusing correction or advice. Proverbs warns that poverty and shame come to those who ignore instruction. This might be the most overlooked warning on this entire list, because most people genuinely believe they're open to advice. They'll say they want help. They'll ask for suggestions. But watch what happens when someone actually tells them something they don't want to hear. Suddenly there are excuses, special circumstances, reasons why that advice doesn't apply to their situation. This happens constantly with money. Someone asks how to get out of debt. You explain they need to stop using credit cards. They immediately list 5 reasons why that's impossible for them. Someone wants to build savings. You suggest cutting unnecessary expenses. They explain why every single expense is actually necessary. The pattern is always the same. They want a solution that doesn't require them to change anything they're currently doing. That's not advice seeking, that's validation seeking, and it keeps people trapped in the exact circumstances they claim they want to escape. Pride is expensive. Every time you reject wisdom because it challenges your current behavior, you're choosing to stay exactly where you are. The question isn't whether the advice is comfortable. The question is whether it's true. If you keep ending up in the same financial situation year after year, maybe the problem isn't your circumstances. Maybe it's your refusal to listen when someone points out what you're doing wrong. Warning number 5. Letting fear prevent action. This is the flip side of chasing shortcuts. Some people lose money rushing into bad opportunities. Others lose money by never starting at all. They're so afraid of making the wrong choice that they make no choice. The money sits in a checking account earning nothing while inflation eats away at its value. They never invest because what if the market crashes? They never start a side business because what if it fails? They never learn new skills because what if it doesn't lead anywhere? Fear disguises itself as wisdom. It tells you you're being careful, being smart, waiting for the right moment. But the right moment is a myth. There's always a reason to wait. Always more information you could gather. Always another expert opinion to consider. Meanwhile, years pass and nothing changes. The Bible describes this perfectly in the parable of the talents. Basically, the servant who buried his money instead of investing it thought he was being safe. He wasn't being safe. He was being afraid. And that fear cost him everything. Financial progress requires risk, not reckless risk, not gambling, but the calculated risk of putting your resources to work instead of hiding them. Every successful investment started with uncertainty. Every business began with questions about whether it would work. Every person who built wealth had to act before they felt completely ready. You won't escape poverty by avoiding every possible mistake. You'll escape it by learning, acting, adjusting, and moving forward even when you're not sure what happens next. These 5 warnings have trapped more people in financial struggle than any economic system or external circumstance, because they're not about what happens to you, they're about what you choose. And the moment you recognize these patterns in your own life is the moment you can actually start changing them. Most people don't fall into poverty overnight. They drift there through small decisions that seem harmless at the time. A rushed choice here, an ignored warning there, fear that keeps them frozen. Each one feels manageable in isolation, but they compound. They build on each other until breaking free feels impossible. The difference between someone who builds wealth and someone who stays stuck often comes down to recognizing these patterns before they take root, not after years of consequences, not when the damage is already done. Now, while there's still time to course correct, you already know which of these warnings applies to your situation. You felt it while watching this. The question is what you do with that knowledge. Because information without action is just entertainment, and your financial future deserves more than that.